documents that would put lives at risk?
Everywhere, where they just survive.
Yo, welcome back. Let's jump on in.
Have you guys heard about the Mountain Dew conspiracy?
No.
There's always been that conspiracy of like Mountain Dew flavors like coincide with like big major events. They had something with Maui that when the Maui fires happened, right? Last year they brought back the pitch black and then we had like the biggest IT blackout of all time.
Oh my gosh.
And there was another one, the tropical flavor, and it was like the tropical swirl. And then we had all those crazy hurricanes.
Is there one with code red?
I can't remember if there was, but then they brought a Star-Spangled Splash flavor for 4th of July last year. And then, no joke, later on, that bridge collapsed. But guess what the name of the bridge was called? Francis Scott Key. The guy who wrote the Star-Spangled Banner. Isn't that wild? And so they just released a new flavor. Purple Thunder is the new flavor.
Purple Thunder.
Well, let's...
Purple.
I do have the Code Red conspiracy. Code Red was only a few months before 9/11 when it debuted.
No way.
That's insane.
Kind of crazy.
Mountain Dew is owned by Pepsi, correct?
Yes.
And we do know that Pepsi worked with the CIA that one time to overthrow the Chilean government.
Yeah.
Does the CIA work with Pepsi?
I mean, I think it's confirmed at this point. I don't think we have to.
That channel is called Ninjas and Butterflies, I think. Really cool channel, super talented guys. They do a lot of different content, but it's mostly conspiracy focused. And they do like some different bits where they like do songs and stuff like that. They're actually really talented. Go check them out. Give them a follow. I never heard about the Mountain Dew conspiracy. Obviously, not the most impactful one if they are doing weird stuff like that, but it's always fun to play with those kinds of ideas. This is the first time I've heard of it, so interesting stuff.
Where the exit of this world is. We can leave. We can leave this world. The only issue is they put us into their society and to where the only way we can leave is if we have enough of their money to accomplish this. They don't want us to go. We can 100% exit the ice wall. And I believe I know where. I don't have 15,000 just laying around. If I had 15,000, I would indeed book this trip so that I could head down there and point this out. Because I believe I 100% know how to get out of the ice wall. We're inside of an ice wall, you guys. The world serpent is in a circle, all right, and frozen around that wall, and we are inside of it. There is an exit. The Truman Show showed us this. The only question is, where is this exit? And they've been showing us this.
Yeah, flat Earth. Of course. The Great Ice Wall. What awesome lore. And then beyond the ice wall, there's other countries and all kinds of stuff, man. This is probably, if I ever get some viewers on this channel and they see this, they're probably going to be not happy. There's a whole community of like flat earthers out there that seem to get really pissed off when you downplay flat Earth, but I think it's an absolute joke. Now there's a snake that's frozen and a Truman Show. I mean, this is where you go off the reservation with me. I don't buy into flat Earth at all. It's absolutely wild, but fun to see the different ideas that are out there floating around.
And so on July 17th, 1979, we landed on the moon, allegedly. Here, hold on. Okay. If you just look a little closer, you can see it was a sound stage. Seen the Truman Show? And we can argue about the moon all day long, but we got to get back to JFK's assassination. How many shooters killed JFK? Tell me when to stop. How many? That's right, 10. Don't believe me? All right, I need volunteers. Come on, JFK shooting. You see? How is this possible? You see what I'm talking about here? Queen's been dead for a long time, since we landed on the moon around the same time. How could this even work? I asked for a flat one, but they just wouldn't give it to me. All the way down here, how could the bullet do this? We are clearly in a computer simulation. Watch my hand, watch this. You still see it? Yes.
Are we covering climate change?
I don't want to get into conspiracies right now, Let's focus on the Loch Ness Monster.
Man, this is obviously satire. He's making fun of conspiracy people. The reason I wanted to watch this one actually is because of the idea of this isn't the right term, but it's kind of like agent provocateurs. So it's very well known that when you have big protests, this happened a lot in the 60s. You had a very right-leaning government and society, frankly, back then, and a left-leaning sort of protest movement looking for change. And they would often send in to these events what they call agent provocateurs. This isn't a theory. It's been proven. It's been documented. The FBI, the government has admitted to doing this, where people would go into these protests pretending to be on the side of the movement and then push the movement in a more extreme direction, often to violence, so that then the government can respond with violence in kind and sort of be justified in doing so. And they can suppress the event or the protest. I think you get a lot of that when you talk about narrative suppression with conspiracy theories, where you can go from something crazy to not so crazy, in the sense of flat Earth and the moon landing being fake and all that stuff. That's a little bit on the crazier side, to the JFK assassination, where in my opinion, there's a lot of questions around that, especially when you talk about the Warren Commission and the government's response to the JFK assassination. So taking these two things together and trying to create some sort of equivalency between them is a way to discredit those conspiracies that may have some legitimacy in the eyes of the public, and sort of group them as a bunch of crazies who believe in flat Earth. That's my opinion with a lot of this stuff.
Did you know a pharmaceutical company once sold a drug they knew was destroying babies and kept selling it for years? In the late 1950s, a West German company called Chemie Grünenthal released a sleeping pill called thalidomide. They called it the safest sedative ever made. Doctors across Europe and Canada prescribed it to pregnant women for morning sickness, but the company already had warning signs. Animal studies raised red flags. Reports of nerve damage were coming in. They buried them. Between 1957 and 1961, over 10,000 babies were born with severely deformed or missing limbs. Some had no arms at all. Some were stillborn. The drug had crossed into the womb and attacked the developing child during the first trimester. Grünenthal knew. Internal memos showed they tracked the damage. They pressured doctors who raised concerns. They kept the drug on shelves. It was only pulled after a German journalist connected the pattern publicly. The United States was spared largely because one FDA reviewer, Frances Kelsey, refused to approve it and held her ground for over a year despite intense pressure. 10,000 children paid the price for a company that chose profit over everything else.
Yeah, unfortunately, conversations around pharmaceuticals seem to have been politicized to a pretty bizarre extent in the post-COVID world, which is really unfortunate, because there's many instances of this kind of stuff happening, which should make sense. That should be expected. That's not a bug, it's a feature, right? And you have to learn to control for that. Which is why we have things like regulation, et cetera, et cetera. But when you have a capitalistic society, you should expect companies to prioritize profits. In fact, it's enshrined in law if the company is publicly traded. So to expect a pharmaceutical company to put lives over dollars, to me, is a little silly. You should expect the pharmaceutical company to put, including the healthcare companies, insurance companies, hospitals, doctors. At the end of the day, it's a business, and they're in business to make money. And I'm not going to discredit some of the folks out there who are doing good work and are in it for the right reasons. But overall, that's irrelevant. It's a system, and that system is designed to extract profit and to maximize profit. And they're going to do and make decisions that support and encourage that outcome And that can come at the cost of lives and better, healthier outcomes. So to suggest that that's not going on is just bizarre. It makes zero sense. It makes zero sense. And there are many, many instances beyond thalidomide that where this has been demonstrated unequivocally. So, I mean, you have a system where logically it makes sense, and historically we have many, 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 many instances of this kind of stuff going on and happening across a large body of time and still happening today. It should be a no-brainer that this is going on, and that we should seek to, always, be wary and keep your eyes open and be vigilant in how we regulate these industries. Unfortunately, like I said, it seems to have been pretty dramatically politicized in a post-COVID world, unfortunately. But just another thalidomide, that's a tough one to say. Another example of pharmaceutical industry doing, conducting shady practices.
Did you know an entire Australian town was slowly poisoned while the company responsible told everyone it was safe? Whitnoom, a quiet mining town in Western Australia, built on blue asbestos. The company knew by the 1940s that asbestos killed. They had the studies. They buried them. Instead, they let children play in the blue dust like it was snow. Families breathed it, ate near it, slept in it. Decades later, the cancers came. Mesothelioma, slow, brutal, unstoppable. Over 2,000 people died. The company kept profiting until there was almost no one left to bury.
Yeah, not surprising. Again, we have an example of companies putting profit over health and lives of the general public. There's a famous movie, God, and I'm blanking on the name. It's the name of the woman. It's played by Julia Roberts plays the role, and the name of the movie is the name of the character she plays, and I forget the name, but she becomes like a paralegal, and they take on a case for a bunch of folks who faced something sort of similar. I think in their drinking water was being polluted by a power company, utilities company. Similar sort of situation as what's being described here. No surprise, right? Again, companies are always going to prioritize maximizing profit over the lives of the general public, and you have to regulate for that and protect against it. And very importantly, which is, I think, something, at least in the U.S., doesn't happen, you have to penalize for it. Even if you regulate and protect against it, there's still chances that it's going to happen, and when it happens, I think it's really important that we get better about penalizing these companies for it. The pharmaceutical company, to go back to the last TikTok, is an example of one that does this kind of stuff all the time, and then when they get caught and get fined, it's rather negligible. So you just made $10 billion in profit, and you paid a $500 million fine. $500 million sounds like a lot of money. You can, grab headlines, et cetera, but it's less than a fifth of the profit, 5% of the profit. In some of these cases, even less. So it's barely a slap on the wrist, and sets up a situation where they're incentivized to continue conducting themselves in this fashion. And that's really a problem. You need to take all of that profit, you need to penalize appropriately, and really de-incentivize this type of conduct. Unfortunately, at least in the U.S., I don't know about Australia, but at least in the U.S., we're not very good about doing that. And it's really unfortunate.
So you know what? It looks like Peter the Lizard Till has bought a home in Argentina. And you don't have to be a history buff to know that pieces of shit throughout history have ran off to Argentina. Other notorious pieces of shit have escaped to Argentina, that way they wouldn't have to stand trial for crimes against humanity. But he bought a $12 million house in Argentina after meeting the leader of that country. And the reason he bought this home is that way he could have a plan B if things really pop off and go crazy in the United States. At least that's what sources are saying. He's also not happy about the fact that a billionaire tax is being voted on in California in November. And escaping to other countries isn't exactly a new thing for O'Till. He actually has a home in New Zealand. That's one of the few places in the world that they say will survive a nuclear apocalypse. And it's weird that he's worried about something bad happening in the United States because he did fund J.D. Vance's pretty much entire political career. So the man that you wanted in office is now currently in office, so everything should be going great for you. And you know, all those Palantir government contracts for super surveillance should be going pretty good. You should be pretty lucrative right now. But you know, history does repeat itself, folks.
Yeah, Peter Thiel going to Argentina. Definitely interesting. Highly doubt the story that's being told is the truth. Just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Very interesting choice of country too, and like this guy brought up, taking the historical aspects of people fleeing to Argentina from other countries. Look it up if you're not aware. Let's just say there's some interesting micro societies in Argentina, communities, not societies, but micro communities in Argentina that are fond of beer and schnitzel. But anyways, yeah. I don't really know what to think about this one, honestly. That's why I'm kind of trying to drag this one out a little bit. I don't know what my thoughts are on this yet. I mean, I heard about that. I think this came out a week or so ago. When I first heard about it, it's just weird. There's something else going on here. I mean, why is he fleeing? It could be as simple as taxes. That could be it. He may have the feeling that that's coming down the pipeline no matter what, and he's getting ahead of it. Hard to say, honestly. Hard to say. I guess we'll see.
Like this icon that has just continued to shake up the pop culture scene for years. But all of that stuff she stole from another female artist named Lina Morgana. She was working with Lina. She was writing her music and she was singing backup on a lot of her tracks. And Lina and Lady Gaga, they became frenemies. So Lady Gaga's first studio debut album called The Fame, that came out in 2008. But that same year, Lina Morgana, at 19 years old, fell off a building in New York and she died.
Sure it's not a coincidence?
Fell, or jumped, or was pushed.
I refuse to believe that Lady Gaga murdered a woman and took her persona.
But then in the music video, this guy pushes her off the balcony. Okay, Sam, did I convince you that Lady Gaga is a murderer?
No, I don't think Lady Gaga killed anyone. She's not a murderer.
So what do you guys think at home? Did Lady Gaga do this?
Yeah, sometimes the celebrity conspiracies are kind of fun to look into. There's been a long-standing belief in the conspiracy community that to make it big in Hollywood, you have to sacrifice someone, and there's a lot of wild stuff out there about it. This one is interesting. I've known about this one for a long time now. Lina Morgana and Lady Gaga. And I'm just going to say right off the bat, I'm a fan of Lady Gaga's music. I think it's pretty cool stuff. But this is an interesting one, mostly because of some of the reactions by Lady Gaga and Lina Morgana's mother, by the way, who believes she was killed. I'm pretty sure I'm remembering that correctly. But this is one that's definitely worth looking into. There's a lot of interesting components to it, like the girl alluded to. There's some bizarre elements to some of Gaga's music videos, and I think even some of her live performances where she's jumping off roofs and stuff like that, which I guess isn't that big of a deal, but when you know someone you're connected to did that, you would think from an optics perspective this may not be a good idea. She's certainly aware of who Lady Morgana, Lina Morgana, what's the woman's name? I'm thinking, mixing up her name. Lina Morgana. She's certainly aware of who that woman is and how she died. So for her to put this into her own music videos is a conscious choice. It's not, she's not unaware of what she's doing. That's 100% the case. She's since claimed that she barely knew Lina and that they didn't really work together and they were connected through an agent or something like that. It was like a 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon type situation where They just get lumped together. That is another bizarre component of this whole situation, is that Lady Gaga seems to actively try and distance herself from Lena Morgana when she performed on the same track. She was like a feature on a track or something with her back in the day, or it's very obvious they've done work together. So to try and claim that you weren't that close, I mean, maybe you weren't best friends, but the level of distance she tries to put between herself and Lena Morgana doesn't really seem to check out when you look at the body of work from back then. Also, Gaga's early stuff, the whole Gaga type character didn't really exist for Gaga. I don't know Lady Gaga's real name. Lena was that type of character, and it isn't until after Lena's death that you see Gaga sort of take on that persona. So a lot of elements here that, obviously there's nothing is black and white. You can't say for certain that this is what's going on, but there's just some weird things happening here, and some weird behavior that make you think twice about it, for sure. Definitely worth looking into, Lena Morgana.
Have you ever noticed or thought of something strange and you just want to share with the world? Well, here's my crazy conspiracy theory. So 100 years ago, bells were everywhere, right? Church bells, town bells, schools, factory bells, you name it. And people heard them constantly, literally all the time. But in today's world, most of them are silent or they're completely gone. They've been removed. And now, according to this one theory that I stumbled upon, there might be a reason for that, and it might not be what you think. So before you write this off as absolutely crazy, hear me out on this one. Because whether you believe this or not, some of the details are kind of hard to ignore. Now, according to old records, bells weren't just used to tell time. People genuinely believe that they were protected, and they were used to protect an entire community, basically. In medieval Europe, church bells were blessed by priests before they were even hung in a tower. People believed that the sound could drive away evil spirits, break curses, protect crops, even stop supernatural entities from entering one's town. And that's not folklore from, one isolated village. These are versions of this belief that appeared all over the world. Different cultures, different languages, different religions, you name it, but yet somehow they all arrived at the same conclusion. And that was that certain sounds affected things that we humans can't see with our own eyes. But here's where the story gets a little bit more strange. Now, some researchers and conspiracy theorists began asking a question, and that is, if bells were so important, why did society stop eventually using them? Now, not completely, but enough that most people rarely hear them anymore. I remember when I was little in the 90s, I would hear them, but as I got older, they started to fade away more and more. Well, then a theory started spreading a little bit more online, and this theory involving something much more darker. Now, according to the claim, there are beings living among us that aren't entirely human, entities capable of appearing human through some kind of projection disguise, like a camouflage, a mask, or like a hologram, basically. And supposedly certain frequencies interfere with their hologram. And the theory claims that large bronze bells produced powerful resonant tones that disrupted whatever was creating the illusion. Now, not enough to expose them permanently, but just enough for a brief moment, like a flicker of a shift, or like a glimpse of something underneath whatever they were hiding. And people claim that during the ringing of certain bells, witnesses would report seeing faces distort for a split second, and eyes were appearing wrong, skin color was changing, features were becoming something entirely else out of this world, and then immediately it would snap back. Now, there's absolutely no evidence that this ever happened, but here's what makes this theory a little bit more interesting to me. The people spreading it point to the fact that ancient civilization seemed obsessed with resonance. Massive bells, gongs, sound chambers, acoustic temples, you name it, they all had it. Structures were designed specifically around certain vibrations, and almost as if they believed that sound could affect reality within itself. And modern science does agree on one thing: sound is far more powerful than most people even realize. Specific frequencies can alter moods, heart rate, stress levels, brain activity, even heal cancer. There's studies that have been done that it's actually healed cancer. And if we want to take it a little step further, it's very possible that the Great Pyramids were built using a sort of sound vibration technology. So the conspiracy will ask, if someone or if sound can affect the human body and even build giant structures, what else can it affect? And then comes the question that really keeps this theory alive. If bells were only primitive tools for, telling time, why were so many cultures convinced that, they possessed spiritual power? Why bless them? Why build enormous towers around them? Why treat them as sacred objects instead of a simple instrument? And why do so many old legends describe bells as protection against things that weren't supposed to exist in our world? And again, there's no proof of reptilians or any of this. There's no proof of, a holographic disguise. There's no proof that bells ever exposed anything. But the next time that you pass an old church, look up at the bell tower, because for thousands of years, people believed that, that sound protected them from something. And whether that something was evil spirits or hidden entities or simply just fear itself, one question will always remain. What exactly were they so afraid would happen if the bells ever stopped ringing? Let me know what you guys think in the comments.
No offense to this guy, Mikey Grim History. It looks like the name of the channel. I don't know if this is a clip that was stolen from his original page or not. You get a lot of that on TikTok, but go check him out. I don't know that he did the best job of explaining this. It was a little bit convoluted, a little bit all over the place. He definitely lost me when we start talking about the bells and sound disrupting the illusion that's hiding aliens or whatever. That's where you lose me. However, I have heard of this bell stuff before in the past, and it is really interesting idea, not because of that part of it, but like, for instance, I think a lot of people are aware of this. Like, there are certain frequencies that can cause water to behave in certain ways. Like, if you run a frequency of sound across like water just on a surface, the water will ripple out in a distinct pattern and stuff like that. Same thing with sand. Like, if you put sand on a surface and run sound at a specific frequency, it will make the sand move in a way. I'm probably misremembering the details of this, but there's something like that that goes on that's really interesting, and potentially might have some implications to what it could do to our bodies. Maybe positive and negative implications. But also just think about the fact of, like, I think about like mind over matter and like how music makes you feel a certain way, right? Like, you could be having a really crappy day and play an upbeat song, and now all of a sudden you're feeling better and you got more energy. I know I experience that a lot. I think a lot of people can relate. Or if you're going through a breakup, certain song, like helps you vent that emotion more, or, whatever the case may be. Certain songs bring back really distinct memories. So just, sound in general is a really powerful tool that I don't think we think about enough. And there is some type of element, I think, to it being sort of viewed through the lens of the sacred, like not necessarily, just, Christian or Western with bells being over church steeples and stuff, but also, those flutes, like there's a lot of different cultures. There's the bells that they would carry, or the gongs and stuff like that in the East. So there's a lot of different cultures around the world that used sound in different ways to sort of impart a vibe, if you will. Yeah, it's something that I don't know that we think enough about. I wish there was more kind of research that would go into that, because I personally do believe in a lot of these things having some level of impact. If you talk about going outside and getting sunlight, vitamin D is obviously very important, and the best way to get that, supplementation is great. I certainly do so, but the best way to get it is just go outside and soak up some vitamin D from the sun. Grounding is another one. If you're not aware of what grounding is, look that up. It's an interesting concept. I believe has an impact. I wear a copper bracelet for a similar reason. There's certain minerals in copper that they say could be good for you. What about sound? Is there a way we can be using sound to increase our health? I think there may be something to that. And I don't think removing the bells had anything to do with aliens or whatever, but more about removing elements, if there's anything going on there at all, and I'm not saying there is, but it would be more about removing the elements of our society that are naturally keeping us healthy, because they don't want healthy people, they want forever patients, because those are easier to extract profit from. That's the theory I would go with around the bells. I'm looking at one of the comments here. You have to travel and cultivate your mind. Almost every town and city in Spain has a bell in every church. Basically, he's implying that this is only something that happens in the U.S. They're not doing it in Europe. Well, the counter argument against that would be Europe. A lot of European countries, I'm not sure about Spain specifically, but a lot of European countries have free healthcare. So they're not as incentivized for forever patients the way the United States is. So I think that argument still sort of holds up there. But a very interesting concept, just the idea of sound in general. I wish we knew more about it. Anyways, I think we're going to end it there today. Hope you enjoyed some of those. Please like, subscribe, help support and grow the channel. Very, very much appreciated, guys. Thank you again. See you next time.